Taylor mentioned, my name is Ted Waga, and I'm running against Todd Platts for U.S. House of Representatives in the 19th District. I appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to come out and talk to you, and I appreciate you coming out here to hear me, whether you knew it or not. I'll be as brief as possible so that, again, we can get to the Q&A. I was born and raised in a blue-collar family. My father taught me at an early age, if you want something, you got to work for it. You know, my parents didn't give me anything. If I wanted, candy at the store, Dad, can I have $1 to get some gum? Sure, go cut the grass. So I learned at an early age, you had to work for whatever you wanted, that there are no free lunches. So I'm the type of guy, I'm not afraid to roll up my sleeves and get dirty and put the work in. In fact, I'm in the middle of replacing the transmission on my Envoy because it went up a few weeks ago, which is a pain in the butt doing that on the garage floor. And that's kind of stuck with me my whole life. Hard work, perseverance, and doing the right thing. Even in my job as a police officer, I've been a police officer for 13 years. I did it because I want to help people. I had a good job prior to that. I took about a $5,000 pay cut to become a police officer, but it was important to me because I wanted to help people. I know some folks have asked me, well, being a police officer, where do you stand on the Patriot Act? It's an unconstitutional law, so just to clear that up right up front. Why am I running? Because we're in a lot of trouble. We just mentioned how far, we're $15 trillion in debt. We're over 100% of our GDP, which means we are insolvent. We're broke. Our nation is broke. A lot of people don't realize that. We have a Washington that is spending out of control. Our debt is out of control. Regulation between 2008 and 2010, over 2,400 new regulations went into effect that came out of Washington. Over 2,400 in 3 years. Now, Congress has the ability, through the Congressional Review Act, to strike down any regulation before it takes effect. To my knowledge, that's only happened one time. That was back in 2001. It has not happened since. And in my opinion, that's a dereliction of duty on the part of our congressmen. Every piece of regulation that comes out should be thoroughly reviewed and should be stopped in its tracks if it costs the American people money or if it impinges on our rights and our freedoms as American people. And too much and too many have gone through that have restricted our freedoms, have put a chokehold on American businesses. I spoke to one business owner who has over 13 lawyers that he's had to hire in order to comply with the regulation. It costs American businesses thousands of dollars every year. I'm not sure exactly what the number is per employee, but I believe it's somewhere around $10,000 or $15,000 per employee to comply with all the regulations. This is ridiculous. We have legislators who are just giving our money away to foreign countries. We can't even pay our own bills, yet we're giving money away to other countries. They have failed to secure our border, which reduces our security. It is killing our economy, so we need to secure our border. We have a president who is sidestepping Congress and the political process through executive orders. And I haven't heard any of our congressmen or senators up in arms about this. They should be screaming about what he's doing.
Usurping your power.
He is usurping power from the Congress. Unilaterally, he took us into war in Libya. They should have put a stop to that right from the get-go. We have the head of the Department of Justice who is implicated in this gun-running scandal that resulted in the death of a Border Patrol agent. Man trying to do his job, and he's killed by guns that we allowed to go over to Mexico. And yet nothing has happened. They have meetings, they have hearings, and they use these really tough words when they talk to this guy, but what have they done to him or any of his people? Has anybody been charged with any crimes yet? And this has been going on for over a year now. We have a Congress that is not doing anything about any of these things that are going on that are affecting us as Americans. It's simply business as usual, and I'm personally getting sick and tired of business as usual. And so that's why I've decided that I have to run for Congress to do what I can to try to affect change for our country and for you folks. So what's my platform? It's 3 simple words: reduce, repeal, and restore. We have to reduce the size and scope of our federal government. We have over 2 million people that work for the U.S. We have over 2 million people. There's more people that work for the U.S. government than work for every state combined. Take off 50 states, and you add up their employees, it still doesn't equal what our federal government employs. So we have to reduce the size and the scope of our federal government. They're reaching to our lives. Their hands are in our pockets way too often for way too many things. I believe in a decentralized government or leadership. Right now, we have a centralized government. Everything basically happens in Washington. We need to get the power back down to the people, back down to the states where it belongs. Washington has too much power. So we need to reduce the size of government. We need to reduce the legislation that's coming out of Washington. We have to reduce the amount of regulation that's coming out of Washington. In fact, they ought to take a couple years off, not pass any new laws, and start looking at what they can get rid of, what they can repeal, what regulations they can get rid of, instead of passing any new laws and regulations. In fact, I say that, but there are a couple laws that I do plan on introducing. The first of which is a 10% pay cut for every member of Congress in the House and the Senate. The second would be reducing their congressional budgets. Our congressman, I don't know if you guys are aware, he spent over $880,000 last year on his staff. He has 3 local offices plus his office in D.C. I don't see the need for all that. You can very easily get by with one centralized office here, one office down in D.C., and cut out a lot of folks and spend a lot less money. And that's just one congressman out of the 535 total in the House and Senate. So we need to cut down on the regulation and the legislation. We got to reduce that. We got to reduce the number of bureaucratic agencies within the federal government. We could start with the Department of Education, the Department of Energy, the FDA, and we can go on and on and on and on. In fact, I don't believe there's one that we can't touch at least and reduce in some fashion, if not completely eliminate. So we got to reduce the number of bureaucracies coming out of Washington. We have to repeal, as I mentioned, the legislation and the regulation. And when we reduce the government, when we repeal these laws and these regulations, we're going to start to restore individual rights and freedoms. That's what it's really about, is our individual rights and freedoms. The rights and freedoms of the business owners and entrepreneurs. If we can get Washington out of the way and let Americans do what Americans do best, let American owners and business owners do what they do best, our country will recover. It'll naturally happen because Americans will make it happen. But we got to get Washington out of the way first. That's one of my first goals. That's one of the things that I'm looking to do, is do everything I can to reduce the power and reduce the strength of Washington and return it back to we the people. That's what we need. We need we the people in Washington. And we need to restore a moral compass in Washington. One thing that you should know about me is I am an unapologetic Christian. My wife and I go to Windsor Assembly of God. She works with the Children's Church as well as the Missionettes, and I work with the Royal Rangers. I'm a Royal Ranger commander. And so, while I'm not a perfect guy, I am guided by Christian values and Christian principles and Christian morals, and I believe we need more of that in Washington. Our country was founded on Christian principles, and over the years we moved so far away from the principles that we were founded upon that what was once right is now wrong. What was once wrong is now right. We've gotten it backwards. We need to switch it back around. So I want to thank you guys for your time. I'll answer any questions you have. Nothing's off limits. Ask me whatever you want to ask me, as long as it's not too personal. No problem. Yes, sir.
Foreign policy. You mentioned Libya. What about the other 5 or 6 wars we're in right now?
Yeah, I don't believe that. Yeah, I don't believe that we need to be the world's police. There was another country that made that mistake many years ago, Rome, and we see what happened to Rome. I believe that we need to bring our troops home, and we can put our troops on the border. We don't need to build a wall. We can use our troops to secure our border. So yeah, that's my policy as it goes for foreign policy is walk softly and carry a big stick. I would let folks know, look, we're not going to go mess with you. You know, you're a sovereign country. Who are we to come into your country? But don't mess with us. It's that simple.